Eastward was easily my favorite game of 2021. I've talked about it in a few bits and pieces around the channel, but I think it's really time to crack this bad boy open. It's time to talk about how this game did something that I don't think many games do very well. That is, it instills a crippling guilt into the player, which isn't referenced directly most of the time, but the knife is subtly twisted by the game over and over. If you've played Eastward, you probably know what I'm talking about. The big stinger. So let's get some context out of the way. In the game Eastward, you follow two people, John and his adoptive daughter, Sam. The two of them travel on a railway east because Sam wants to see the world. Sam has special powers, and this leads to her being able to activate things with light bubbles she wouldn't be able to normally. This is never directly explained, but that doesn't matter much anyway. In the second chapter of the game, John and Sam visit a town called Greenburg. It's a beautiful place full of this abstract architecture of these boats that have sunk into the grassy fields, because Greenburg used to be a port before the water nearby disappeared. What you're left with is this stunning area, which many areas in Eastward are. The sprite art is a big part of the game's storytelling, and not just in terms of the ethereal background work. Every NPC has their own animations, and this town, of course, is no exception. Every character feels unique because they all have their own names and designs. We don't have to know the entire history of Bowman. We just see his crazy eyes and his raccoon hat and read his dialogue about telling John to get a move on to know what he's like. This is another great strength of Eastward. Its NPCs really make the world feel alive, and here it's incredibly effective to make you care about this town. Greenburg is a living, breathing organism, and its heart is this girl named Uva, who is the first person John and Sam meet. Well, technically they meet her dog, John, first, not to be confused with John the human. Uva quickly develops romantic feelings for John and becomes a sweet presence in their lives. Even though John's stoic and doesn't talk, and I mean he literally doesn't talk canonically, he seems to be catching feelings too. Sam takes to Uva like a mother figure, and Uva even makes tuna sandwiches for them, which is basically like the gesture that makes you a family. Soon enough, John and Sam integrate into the town. Also, their performing jester friend, who happened to be on the same train east as them, Jasper, starts to get along with the others quite well with his grand storytelling performances. They even celebrate the Harvest Festival together. They partake in the town's traditions. There's this really cute part where everyone takes a photo together and rationalizes saying cheese as praising the god of cheese. It's so comfy and nice. Then everyone in Greenburg dies, and John, Sam, and Jasper barely escape with their lives. Yeah, I don't think I have to explain why that's a big deal. This town that you settle into and fall in love with for quite a few hours of gameplay is suddenly completely eradicated. It's been totally wiped away by the ever-present miasma, a dark, cloudy force that destroys all it touches. And the worst part? It's your fault. When searching for a pig that got loose from one of the farming pens, John and Sam stumble upon an old factory. Sam reactivates the factory with her light bubble magic by accident, and the miasma is set loose upon the town from it. The two of them don't know this, especially Sam, who forgets everything that happens in Greenburg. But you know this. You know that it was all your fault. The game tells you directly. Jasper blames himself for the incident, and for a while he can't even bring himself to do anything anymore. By the time you reach the next town, New Dam City, his face is stuck in a look of shock and horror. Throughout the rest of the game, everything Jasper does is motivated by what he witnessed in Greenburg. The next time the miasma comes, this time for New Dam City where his new performing troupe of friends are, instead of going to a safe house, he tries to stay and fight it. Even though the game never directly references this being why he does this, we all know why he's doing it. This hopeless endeavor is a means of coping with the events that transpired there, and maybe, just maybe, a way for him to save more people he cares about from being consumed. After the miasma attacks New Dam City, but is successfully repelled, John has a dream about the day after the Harvest Festival and how things might have been had the miasma not wiped it all away. It's a really touching and solemn moment of contemplation, and it's the last time the game reminds you of Greenberg directly. You get to see all the faces that you personally were responsible for killing. I say this is the last time the game reminds you of it directly for a very specific reason, because Eastward continues to guilt you in subtle ways throughout the game. Every time you go to another factory, which appear more and more the deeper you get into the game to their relevance to the overall plot, you are immediately reminded of Greenberg and what horrible things happened there because of your presence. Every time you boot up the game and see the White Whale station, you think of the town that used to be near that train station. And in what I think is the most devious and heart-wrenching way of all, every time John's weapons are taken from him, there's a picture of a dog with a muzzle on. That dog is John the dog, Uva's puppy, who died in Greenberg. Even in user interface update screens, the game still finds a way to remind you of what happened without ever directly telling you what happened. And it's brilliant. Eastward is my favorite game of 2021 for a lot of reasons. It has a wonderful art direction and a beautiful soundtrack. Every character is so unique and full of life. The puzzles progress in difficulty in such a satisfying way. But my biggest reason is that no game has ever emulated guilt in such a distinct way as Eastward has. No game has ever made me feel heavy inside while playing it like Eastward has. No game has ever made me regret like Eastward has. And really, isn't that what you're looking for in a video game at the end of the day? To feel like shit? I know I am. This has been Arcade Everlasting, getting on the next train east, signing off. Thank you for watching.